When I was 18, I was driving home from a friend's house after a movie marathon. It was around 1 a.m. when I left after a decent drive. My gas light came on. I had a few creepy catcall experiences at gas stations and was a little paranoid stopping that late in the middle of nowhere as a 110-pound teenage girl. In the end, I think if I wasn't so cautious, I would have been kidnapped or killed. The first gas station I came across was well lit and in a pretty open space. I drove up to the pump and looked around my car mirrors before getting out. As I was starting to pump gas, this normal-looking guy comes out of the gas station shop and starts smoking a cigarette. The pump kept clicking off and not working, so I started messing with it trying to get it to pump. This guy starts watching me, laughing. I assumed he was just laughing to himself watching a teenage girl trying to pump gas. After getting maybe 1/4 a gallon, I gave up and moved to a new pump. When I got back into my car, I locked my doors just to drive to the other pump. I checked all of my mirrors before getting out or shutting off my car again, as I had an old 90s Beetle that didn't always start right away. That's when I saw the guy walking up to my car. He was smiling, walking up to the driver's side window. Not wanting him next to me, I rolled down the passenger window. He paused for a moment, then smiled to himself and walked to the passenger window. He stuck his head all the way inside my window to talk to me. "Hey, I know this seems really weird, but I promise I'm not a creep or anything. My car broke down and I need a ride home. It's just half a mile up the road." "Sorry, but I don't know you," I said. "I totally get it. I thought it was pretty weird as I was walking up here, but it's only half a mile up the road. I'm totally stranded." "I wish I could help you, but I really don't know you." "Yeah, I got you. If you had a truck or something, I'd offer to ride in the back." "Sorry, no." All of a sudden, he looked pissed. He yanked at my door, but I had locked it before. Then he reached for my inside door handle through the window. My car was still running, and I slammed it into first and peeled out as he opened the door. The car taking off slammed it shut, and I sped off. I called the police after I got away. They looked at the gas station cameras, and right after I left, he got into his red SUV and drove off, and he was never found again. If I hadn't locked my doors the second time, I would have been fucked. If I let him come to the driver's side window, he could have grabbed me. If had I shut my car off, I wouldn't have been able to drive off in time. If I didn't double-check my mirrors, I would have been outside my car when he came up to me. About 7 years ago, when I was 17, my parents went out of town for a weekend and left me at home. This was a pretty common occurrence. My parents trusted me. I would usually spend these weekends away staying with friends or family, as my parents' house is a bit creepy to be in alone, even during the day. We live in a small rural town where everyone knows each other, and generally it's pretty quiet and safe. Saturday I was supposed to stay with a friend, but her parents decided at the last minute not to let me stay. It wasn't a big deal that I had to leave. I was somewhat prepared to have to go home because her parents got weird about company sometimes. I left her house, which is about 15 minutes from my parents' house, around 9:30 or 9:45. While I was on the way home, I got a weird feeling that I can't explain. I just knew that I didn't want to go stay with my parents alone. I called my brother and asked if I could stay with him. At the time, he was living with a woman who had a small child. He told me it would be quieter and easier for him to just come to stay with me since his dog would bark if I tried to come into the house. He said he would be at our parents' in 20 minutes. My brother's a relatively scary-looking guy. He's about 6'3" and weighs 200 pounds, is pretty muscular, and is covered in tattoos. After hanging up, I decided to stop at a gas station and grab a snack before going home so that my brother would be there when I got there. I pulled into the gas station. There were only a few cars in the lot, which is typical because this is a small town in the rural south, where everything pretty much stops after 8 p.m. I parked and walked up to the door. A man was standing outside the door smoking. He opened the door for me without saying anything. This is normal Southern hospitality, especially since I'm a female. I smiled and thanked him. Inside, another man was standing by the door. I noticed him staring at me as soon as I came in. He gave me that gross up and down look and said something to the effect of, "Hey sexy, what are you doing alone?" which was creepy as fuck. I just ignored him and walked toward the back of the store. He yelled after me and called me a bitch. I still ignored him. I figured he was drunk or high or just an asshole. Most people around here talk a big game but rarely back it up. I wasn't scared, just annoyed. I got my snacks and paid at the counter. When I walked back up to the door, both the men were gone. I was happy to not have to deal with any more catcalling. I began walking across the lot towards my car, which was probably about 100 feet away from the door. As I was walking, I looked down at my phone to see if enough time had passed for my brother to be with my parents. When I looked up, the guy who had hit on me was standing at the pump staring. I looked at him for a second and continued walking.
"Hey, you know you're supposed to answer a man when he speaks to you,"
he said. I remember saying something snarky back to him and getting in my car. He looked pissed at my sarcasm. I locked my doors as soon as I was in my car, started it, and was thinking of nothing but getting home to eat my snacks and hang out with my brother. I put my car in gear and realized the man had disappeared. I looked around before pulling out of my parking spot, only to realize that both men were sitting in a car facing mine across the lot. They were both staring at me and talking, occasionally even pointing toward me. I just stared at them, defiant and pissed. I didn't want them to think they scared me at all. While we were sitting having our staring contest, the man who had opened the door for me smiled and gave me the finger across the throat gesture as in, "You are dead." I rolled my eyes and pulled out of the gas station, annoyed. To my dismay, they pulled out behind me. I hadn't been scared up until this point because, as I said, most people here are a lot of talk with no follow-through. Instead of going home, I took a few back roads that connect back in a sort of circle to see if they were following me, which of course they were. When they realized I was testing them, they drove up close to me and started laying on the horn. I couldn't see their headlights, they were so close. I called my brother and told him what was going on. He told me to come home and he would handle it. I started driving home. The two assholes were still on my ass blowing the horn. Even with my detours, I was only about 4 minutes from my parents' house. I slowed down to pull in the driveway and was immediately relieved. At the end of the driveway, my brother was standing shirtless, with his shoulders back, hands crossed in front of his stomach, clearly holding a pistol, his intimidating-looking pit bull sitting by his side. I drove around him into the yard. The two guys actually started to pull in behind me until they saw my brother. Then they hightailed it out of there. I have no idea what they would have done if I had stopped somewhere alone or kept driving. I always think fondly of that image of him standing there like a badass, ready to protect me. I'm thankful he was there. I live about 20 miles from the city in which I work. I live out in the country, and about a short walking distance from my house is a highway, and on the corner is a 24/7 gas station. Last week on a Saturday night, I went by there right before midnight to grab some Cajun peanuts. I see one car parked on the side, which is normal usually, just a guy working and rarely any customers at this time. Do you ever feel this dread overcome you like you know something is wrong? I walk in and don't see anyone, nobody behind the counter or in the store, so I take my time and assume they're in the bathroom or step to the back of the store. Maybe they heard the chime on the door when I came in. I was feeling weird and uncomfortable, so I wait a minute. It seemed like forever, and I called out, "Anyone here?" I wait a minute more, put the peanuts down, and walk out the door. I checked the car parked on the side, and there wasn't anything troubling. I even glanced at the back side of the store, and there was nobody. I was pretty uncomfortable, so I just called the police. They showed up 15 minutes later and started searching the place. They found the cashier dead in the men's bathroom, beaten to death. They called in backup, asked me to recap what I experienced, and then I went home. So I got home and my dog was in the front yard just staring at me, and my front door was cracked open. My heart was racing so much, so I grabbed my dog and head back to the gas station and let the police know. They send one of the guys to search my house. Nothing is stolen or out of place, but there was a sign of forced entry. And about 5 hours ago, I get a call from my brother who works for the county sheriff's office. Supposedly, they pulled the camera footage, and about 10 minutes before I walked into the store, someone came in, started punching the cashier, and then dragged him into the bathroom. In the footage, you could see me walk in and look around and call out, and then you can see me walk out and check out the car, walk to my vehicle and make a call. About the time I'm in the vehicle, the alleged murderer walks out of the bathroom and sneaks out the back door, and before leaving the view of the camera, He takes off in the general direction of my house. Fortunately, my wife was out with some friends watching Beauty and the Beast again, but I'm convinced that I missed a murderer at the gas station, and then he broke into my house. This week I had a new security system installed alongside a new front door, but I'm pretty sure whoever did this is still out there.